The administration and media's story concerning the actual hijackings is this. On the morning of 9/11/01, 19 radical Islamic fundamentalists hijacked 4 commercial airliners. The hijackers used paper cutters to overwhelm and kill the 8 pilots and to control the 266 passengers and flight attendants. The 2 flights that took off from Boston, Flights 11 and 175, were redirected to New York, where they were crashed into the World Trade Center buildings. The World Trade Center buildings caught on fire, causing the trusses to soften and expand, and both WTC Buildings 1 and 2 came down. The flight that took off from Newark, Flight 93, flew all the way out to Ohio and then circled back towards Washington, D.C. During this flight, several passengers made phone calls from the plane. A number of the passengers made an unsuccessful attempt to regain control of the plane, and during the struggle, the plane crashed in central Pennsylvania. The now famous last words of Todd Beamer, one of the passengers of Flight 93, were,
"Let's roll."
The 4th flight, Flight 77, took off from Washington, D.C., flew across Virginia, West Virginia, and got to Ohio, turned around, and flew back to Washington, D.C., where it slammed into the Pentagon. This is the story that a vast majority of Americans have repeatedly been told and believe. The following list of objective facts, worthy questions, and valuable insights into this segment of the 9/11 events are essential to making good decisions as to what really happened. Point 15. Of the 8 pilots on the 4 flights, 6 had military experience and were considered men who could take care of themselves. Is it possible all 8 could be overwhelmed and killed by hijackers who were using paper cutters? Further, is it possible none of the 8 pilots could take any evasive actions or send out alerts to the FAA? Yes, these things are possible, but they are not probable. Point 16. 2 supposed pilots of hijacked Flight 77 were Khalid al-Midar and Nawak al-Hamzi. This is the flight that disappeared over Ohio, came back, and pulled off an extreme spiral maneuver, leveled off, and hit the Pentagon. Flight instructor Rick Garza at Sorby's Flying Club had this to say about our ace pilots.
It was like Dumb and Dumber. I mean, they were clueless. It was clear to me they weren't going to make it as pilots.
Point 17. Flying jumbo commercial airliners is not like driving a golf cart. There are significant skills one has to learn. First, the pilots who were not from this country would have to fly by sight for several hundred miles. Secondly, the pilots on Flights 175 and 77 were said to have brought the planes down from 30,000 feet, performed fast and tight 280-degree veers, and hit their targets with bullseye precision, all by hand. Give me a break. A commercial airliner creates 1.5 to 2 times the normal gravity when it turns. With turns at this altitude, this speed, and this degree of tightness, the plane would be pulling 6 to 7 times normal gravity. According to experienced commercial pilots, these maneuvers would be virtually impossible for any but the most advanced pilots to accomplish. Point 18. Very few people are aware that the Telegraph, a paper out of New Hampshire, reported that Flights 175 and 11 crossed paths at the same moment, directly above the Stewart International Airport in New Windsor, New York. What a coincidence! One of the controllers of this facility is reported to be also the controller of the Egypt Air Flight 990 that crashed in 1999, when the pilot supposedly committed suicide. Interesting. Point 19. It must also be noted the FAA has not released flight path information or the full voice recordings of the communications between the planes and the FAA. There are 2 black boxes on each large airliner, and these boxes are built to withstand major crashes. Thus, it is a bit strange that the FAA says that most of the information on all 8 black boxes of these flights was destroyed. Point 20. Few Americans are aware of a technology called Global Hawk. With this technology, flying drones, which look very similar to commercial planes, can be maneuvered with great precision. Many believe that this technology can also be used to override the manual or auto control of a commercial airliner, and perhaps could have been used on 911. 21. The official story is United Flight 93 took off from New Jersey, was hijacked, and flew out to Ohio, where it turned around and headed back towards Washington, D.C. Supposedly, the passengers made several calls to loved ones, and Scott Beamer and others made an attempt to take back control of the plane. During the fight, the plane crashed. The problem with this story is that the plane did not crash because of the fight. The plane was shot down. Here are the facts. 1. The debris was scattered over an 8-mile radius. 2. The debris was blown into tiny pieces. 3. Witnesses in the area report hearing a loud explosion while the plane was in the air and seeing military jets. Point 22. Several years ago, professional golfer Payne Stewart was flying with friends out of Florida in a small private jet towards Dallas. Within a short period of time after takeoff, there was a malfunction in the plane, and the pilot and passengers passed out and lost contact with the FAA. Within 18 minutes, NORAD had scrambled an F-16 to fly next to this plane. Within 22 minutes, there were 4 F-16s flying in tandem with this disabled plane. This is all standard operating procedure, SOP. NORAD's Central Command headquarters are in Cheyenne Mountain, Colorado. They have the highest quality tracking technology in the world, and it is their responsibility to monitor the skies over America and to protect America from missiles and planes. That is their job. In contrast, no F-16s or other planes were scrambled in time for Flights 11 or 175 that took off from Boston, even though there was 36 minutes between the time the FAA knew there was a hijacking and the time Flight 175 crashed into the South Tower. The case of Flight 77 is even more alarming, as it was in the air for over 43 minutes with full knowledge that it was aimed at the White House, the Capitol, or the Pentagon. Andrews Air Force Base is only minutes away, and not one plane was sent up, and no planes were scrambled from the Langley Air Force Base until after the attack. There are several military bases in the area with the capability and responsibility to protect our capital, yet nothing was done. It appears that the order was given by NORAD to stand down.